What is trauma? Oftentimes we speak about trauma as an impactful event that affected us in a negative way. It could be like the loss of a loved one, or it could be like a physical accident, or it could be like maybe like being fired from a job that was really unexpected, or those are just examples of a singular event. But trauma can also be less clear or less concrete, in a way that we've experienced small events or like small experiences that happened over a longer period of time. And so in this situation, a childhood could be traumatic in a sense if we have been neglected for a longer period of time, or like maybe a job where the expectations or the pressure was too high for a longer period of time, and we weren't really supported during that time period, or we had to like endure a lot of stressors. That can be also traumatic in the long run. And what often happens in both situations, whether it's like a singular impactful event or something that happened for a longer period of time, what you often see is that with trauma, people haven't had the needed support or room or space to process whatever this traumatic event caused, like the emotional consequences of the trauma. Like, was there enough support or room or to process all these kind of like difficult feelings and emotions around it? So you can have like people who've maybe had a traumatic loss, unexpected, but because there was enough of support around them, they were able to like grieve in a healthy way. Time is also an important factor that heals people, but because of the support network around those people, they were able to process this traumatic event, and as a result of that, didn't take it with them in life. But there are also people who might have experienced the same traumatic event, but they don't have this support network around them, or they like delve into something else, or they try to distract themselves from it, and then as a result they never learn to process the impact of the traumatic event, and will as a result take it with them in life, and can experience a backlash maybe like 10 or 20 years later, because they've never processed these kind of like traumatic events that happened in their life. And when we don't know, or when we don't know how to process certain traumatic events, or we don't have like this support network around us, or we have people around us but they don't talk about it, about these kind of things with us, basically when we don't do anything with this traumatic event, we will take it with us, and trauma will get stored in our body. And this can have negative consequences in our life. For instance, it could lead to us having unhealthy relationships with other people. Maybe we will be very avoidant, or we will be very anxious in relationships because of this trauma that we experience. Or maybe it will change the way we live our life. We might not be living our life to the fullest anymore, or we might be very harmful towards ourselves because of this trauma that we've experienced. And these are just a few examples, that I come up with now. And most of the times, these kind of like difficulties that we experience in life after trauma are usually coming from a script that we have like not consciously, but that we have like created to survive this trauma. And I can give you a few examples. Like, to survive a trauma, we can handle that in different ways. For instance, for some people who have experienced trauma that might have been really traumatic, they convince themselves that it's okay whatever happened to them, and they tend to like minimize what happened to them. But this happens really subconsciously, but the minimizing is a way of protecting themselves, because for them to face the reality of the impact of the trauma would be devastating, would mean that they have to acknowledge, and see and feel the pain that has been caused by this trauma. Another way people deal with trauma is by avoiding it, and by not even like thinking about it anymore, not even talking about it anymore. They just try to like block it totally from their mind, and could immerse themselves in activities, or maybe in work, or maybe in sports, or maybe in like dysfunctional behaviors, like maybe alcohol or drugs, or just not having to deal with anything that is related to the trauma. And for some people, the way to survive a trauma is believing that it was their fault, and maybe start to experience a lot of shame around it, or that they must have been like the bad person, or they are the one at fault, or they might have attracted it in some way, or which is also a way to like not acknowledge of what the trauma was, and then as a survival mechanism, they will believe that it's their fault. In a way, it makes the other people involved not responsible in their mind, but that can also lead to this kind of like self-image, or self-image, that they are always the wrong, they are always at fault, or they are always the wrong person. So for people with unresolved trauma, it's really important that they find a safe space, whether it's a therapist or people around them, that they can work through this trauma and learn to acknowledge it and sit with the pain, feel the pain, so they can heal from it. And through this healing, they will learn to go through life in a more lighter way, get rid of this backpack of trauma that is not serving us.